Hello and welcome to Dice Sagas. I'm Christian. This battle report is going to be Blades of Khorne versus Sylvaneth. It's going to be a Path to Glory battle, so it's something that myself and Matt are really interested in. And we've not, well, to be honest, we've never played it. Well, Path to Glory that is. So ideally, this is a great way to explore and expand upon our narrative games that we do have currently. If you do have any experience with narrative style battle reports or with Path to Glory, drop a comment below and obviously let us know of your own experiences. That'll be awesome to hear. For those who don't know, we do narratively told battle reports, hobby hangouts and community lore videos. If this is the type of thing you're interested in, we do have links down below to our Discord and also other social media platforms that we're actually on. We also have a link to the Great Weave as well. This is where a lot of our content does get uploaded, including community content. It's a great website, highly recommend checking it out. And also a massive thank you to all those who are actually supporting us on our journey so far. It's been an absolutely amazing time. And yeah, with all that said, we hope you enjoy it.
The earth trembles as Malethir Weavesong takes giant lumbering steps up the hill towards the source of the malefic energies. The roots of the world had been recoiling in terror for many moons now, and the pain that they scream now resonates within the Tree Lord. Plant life withers here, where the penumbral lowlands meet the Zyphoid Peninsula, the mixture of shadow and death energies, a bane towards all life that managed to take root. With the march of his Sylvaneth followers, he could feel their own life energies being sapped away, yet they advanced without faltering, knowing as well as he did that their mission was worthy of any sacrifice they needed to take. He had heard the enrapturing song emanating from this place, and desperately sought after it, hoping that it would lead them back to Alariel. The gate comes into view quickly, a structure of strange and ancient build. It has probably seen civilizations rise and fall into its existence, yet it remained dormant up until now. Something was happening which was causing it to shake loose its chains. Perhaps a disturbance in the mortal realms? Malethir had many thoughts, but no time to explore them. His only thought was to seek out Alariel's song and hope that it had not drawn the attention of opposing forces. The Ideneth scouts had ventured far out of their own territories to find this place and gave word to Malethir, knowing that only his forces were close enough to secure it in reasonable time.
You seem worried, mighty Tree Lord.
Lothian Deepwalker speaks up beside him, riding his Fangmora eel through the ethereal sea as if hovering in the air.
I have seen much in my time, sapling.
The deep voice of Malethir seemed to rumble in the helm of the Lothian prince.
The longer you live, the more readily you can sense ill omens and the harbingers of death and chaos.
His words were slow and troubled. With each passing moment and step closer to the gate, a appalling sense of foreboding washes over the Tree Lord and his followers. The voice he sought waxed and waned like the cycles of the moon, yet each time it slipped away, it drove them further into despair.
Perhaps my men shot right ahead, while your forces advance at this pace,
the hot-headed eel rider suggests, unheeding to the cautious words of Malethir.
We would be there far before dusk, and we could patrol the area until.
Malethir halts his advance, and as one, so does the shambling masses of his forces. Lothian wheels his mount around and takes a careful glance around the surroundings, though the shadows of the lands tended to obscure vision beyond the immediate area. A deathly silent breeze rustles the leaves on the Sylvaneth as they became as still as the forest they came from.
What is it you see?
He asked quietly, wary to disturb the concentration of his allies.
We see nothing, young one.
Albarella speaks up suddenly from the shadows. Her hoarse voice sent a shiver down the Lothian's spine, and her cold, listless eyes was unnerving to behold.
Oh, but the earth, it trembles.
Lothain Deepwalker had no sense of their perturbation, but looked to the ground. Pebbles and tiny stones bounced as if a great drumming was striking beneath, and though he couldn't hear it before, it soon became clear to him, the marching of an army. The brass battalion marched in unison behind Junius. The stomp of their hard leather boots gave him a sense of pride and whet his appetite for the fights to come. Khazgrim led the group ahead, the priest more quiet than usual. Junius was quite used to Khazgrim reciting prayers and passages of Khorne's blessings to his followers, but the giant man was near silent for the past several days, and the change in his companion's demeanor concerned him.
Your goal is soon within your grasp, priest.
He speaks up to Khazgrim.
I wouldn't have imagined you to be so dour. Eichmos gave you leave to pursue this, and even sent me to escort the effort.
Junius mocked the supposed honor from the mighty Lord of Khorne. He knew fully well that Eichmos often sent him on seemingly menial tasks, so as to ensure his glory did not eclipse that of the Khornate Lord. Such shrewd tactics only confirmed Junius's beliefs, though. The mighty Lord feared that Junius's path to glory would surpass his own.
His graciousness likely means that there will be nothing to stop our advance, save for these weeds and the occasional Shadowcat. This dormant gate of yours seems not to attract much praise from the
dormant for now.
Khazgrim replies sullenly, breaking the silence that he had held for the past few days. His gaze did not stray from the hilltop peak where the gate lies, though.
Do you truly believe that this gate is a pathway to the Chaos Realm? For it to stand so long without stirring seems unlikely.
Junius comments, noting the vast empty wastes in the penumbral lowlands. Since the explosion of the diamond apex that carved up the lands, the penumbral lowlands have remained an inexplicably empty swath of land. Whether due to uninhabitable conditions, or some unseen curse laid upon the landscape, no one seems willing to take these lands for their own. Few even bother to traverse upon it unless required to do so.
I can only speak of what the Blood Dreams show me, and they've shown me the torrent of blood that will wash over this realm if this gate should open to receive Khorne's might.
Khazgrim's voice began to rise, and Junius felt the advent of another of the Slaughter Priest's sermon coming.
For far too long, this realm has been without the piercing gaze of Khorne. Its soil parched of the blood flow it so dearly needs. A land where demons have no footing, and the full might of Khorne is not burned into the minds of all that dwell here. I will not rest until this realm trembles before the might of the Blood God, and each step is...
The flight of an arrow speeding by the Slaughter Priest interrupts his speech, bringing a little bit of relief to Junius.
Finally,
the Blessed Champion announces, both roused by the thought of combat, as well as being glad to avoid further droning of his companion.
Brass Battalion to the fore. The enemies have just offered a donation.
Wildwoods sprout up from the ground at Malathir's command as if bursting from the bountiful lands of Garan. One tree even stands to bar the path of the Khorne warband from reaching the gate, much to the dismay of Khazgrim. As the trees shudder into existence, Albarella summons forth a swarm of dryads to appear from the woods. Their piercing screams echo into the sky and sends a chill to all enemies within earshot. Tree revenants dash out at blinding speeds, seemingly appearing from nowhere, advancing with caution towards their goal. Lothian Deepwalker rides the etheric sea waves, covering ground quickly and seeking a place to land a precision strike. The enemy line was spread thin, and he looked to break them with his eel riders, or at the very least, delay them while his Sylvaneth allies gained the upper hand throughout the rest of the battlefield. he had confidence in his riders that they could at least hold the line from these savage-looking mortals. As the sea creatures swim forwards, the silently thunderous sound of gigantic arrows fly by as the Kurnoth hunters let loose their arrows, finding home in the chest of an exposed Khorgorath. It bellows out a guttural roar, slumping on its haunches before launching itself forwards with fury. A torrent of blood pours onto the ground as floating skulls manifest into the air, the tang of despoiled blood filling the air and invigorating the mortals of the Khornate warriors. The Hexgorger skulls float as if carried by rage alone toward the enemy, sapping away at the arcane energies in the air, creating an etheric vacuum from which no magic can blossom. The warriors of Khorne begin to surge forwards, unable to contain the rage that they feel in their muscles, or the thirst their blades demand. Both Junius and Gorchain rush out, eager to seek the first kill for themselves. The earth gives way as a gladeworm is summoned into being. It gives a ground-trembling roar before it burrows beneath the soil, only to spring back up searching for prey. With it leading the way, more dryads appear from beyond the tree line, summoned by Arborella the Branch Wraith. They march forwards, eager to drench their talons with the blood of those that would oppose their forests. Malithir too begins his slow progression, his giant footsteps reverberating among the enemy lines, causing doubt in those with lesser resolve. Another volley is loosed, impaling a few blood warriors with giant arrow shafts. Their screams muted by the blood in their mouth and the disappointment of not being able to shed more blood for their god. Lothian sees his opportunity and smashes into the blood warrior line, halting their advances. Axes are turned away easily by their armor and shields, the impetus of the eel charge also lending them aid in shocking the enemy into submission. The skulls hover forwards, driven by the scent of magic in the air, while the gladeworm plunges itself into the ground once more, only to appear again in front of the Khorgorath. The skull-laden beast is surprised by the encounter and is dispatched as the worm takes large chunks of flesh in its maw, leaving little more than a pile of bones and tattered skin. Khazgrim witnesses this, and with a twist of his hands, a demonic prayer chanted through his lips, the magically summoned worm is quickly snuffed out, writhing as if torn from the inside out. With that threat brought down, he turns his attention to the tree revenants that have appeared in the flanks, threatening to attack their back. He beckons for the blood warriors to turn and answer this incursion while he descends from the skull altar. To come so close to him was a challenge he would not shirk from. However, outside the safety of the skull altar, the Kurnoth hunters are quick to take aim against Khazgrim, sending an arrow sinking into his back and sending him stumbling. The blood warriors charge at the revenants without him and crush the enemies before them. Khazgrim is pleased with their ferocity, but was bitter that his axe would not revel in that glory. With the battle reaching its pinnacle, Gorchain whips his axes and chains like a chaotic tempest, rushing headlong into the woods. But as he entered the seemingly endless forest, he found himself isolated and alone. Without warning, he is surrounded by a grove of dryads, their piercing talons penetrating through his armor and flesh. His arms are paralyzed in place as a dozen thorns and claws sink into his body, leaving him as a crumpled, exsanguinating heap of flesh.
Once more I call forth the forces of nature. Come to my aid once again to rid this land of this unholy blight.
Malithir prepares another incantation to summon forth another gladeworm, but his words turn to ash in his mouth as the Hexgorger skulls hone in on him. They coalesce and turn into a bolt of chaotic energies which surges through him and Arborella, burning them and leaving them drained of magical essence. With no magical reserves left, they call for a full frontal assault to be made. From the tree line, dozens of dryads answer the call and race forwards with unnatural speeds, slamming their bodies against the remaining Korgorath and impaling it with deadly branches. Lothian continues to hold off against the Blood Warriors and Junius the Brutal. But even with their stalwart defenses, the tenacity of the enemy attacks was wearing them down. He signals his riders to retreat, unable to sustain combat any further without suffering further damage. Junius cries out at their retreat.
Cowardly sea dwellers!
He orders his warriors forwards to assert their dominance while he holds and waits for another opportunity to strike. The gate seemingly twists and warps as blood seeps into the ground. Crimson bolts of energy skim across the skull altar as a giant icon of Khorne begins to light up. Resonating with this, chittering screams emanate from the flesh of the fallen Korgoraths as bloodletters spawn and explode from the bloated corpse, and from that instant, the gate exploded with a shockwave of energy that sent everyone reeling. The Chaos Realm peered through the portal, shedding a vile light upon all combatants. Khazgrim smiled.
My Alarial song.
Malithir mutters, stunned by the turn of events. Before he could give out his orders, the Bloodletters leapt onto the Dryads and began tearing them apart. Hellfire swords sliced through branches and heads as if honed edge through twine. Their attacks are answered in kind by penetrating talons and raking claws, but the damage was done. Elsewhere, Blood Warriors crashed against the tree revenants, reducing them to shambling piles of broken pods and branches. The Kurnoth hunters continued delivering withering fire, but even as they hit their mark, the morale of the Khorne warriors soared higher, unfazed by casualties felt. Another group of Dryads attempt to push forwards, but as the Brass Battalion took a defensive formation, Malithir bellowed out to his followers and called for a retreat. With the gate continuously blinking in more demons, the Sylvaneth would be overrun quickly. They needed to regroup and plan to take down this gate to the Chaos Realm. Junius watches as the gate ripples reality around him, sending in waves of terror giving flesh. A bolt of vile energy strikes him, and for the first time in years, he can hear the call of Khorne clearly in his head. Visions swirl in his head of mountains of skulls, oceans of blood, and demonic wings casting large shadows over a blazing red sky. A vision of the future he would forge. His ears ring with an unholy chanting that hums around him as Khazgrim approaches.
Do you see it now? Do you feel it?
Khorne has never spoken so clearly to me before.
Junius strains through gritting teeth. The voice of the Blood God beckoned in his skull, so much so that it felt like he would explode trying to contain it.
You are chosen to receive this gift, to answer his calls, to spread his words. Rejoice with trembling. You are a blade priest now. Let your enemies know your conviction as you sever their heads.
I just want to say thank you for watching this content. If you do want to support the channel, we are registered on buymeacoffee.com. The link is down below. It is quite thirsty work, so if you'd like to support the stream or even make regular donations, check that out. That'd be massive, massive help. If not, no worries at all. Take care and let the dice tell the story.